Making your way through work Monday takes everything you got. Then Monday night rolls around and you realize there's a shot. You're only 10 points away. All those times when your team had no fight, they're just so gosh darn frail. Then your star quarterback let another deep ball sail, and your third round pick bet on his team. Then go check out our streets where everybody knows your pain, and they listen to complaints. You wanna be where you can see our bodies bring you no shame. You wanna go where everybody knows your pain.
Welcome into another edition of the Dad Bod Fantasy Squad. I am Rob, and I'm here with the one and only Mr. Alex. How are you doing this evening?
Not bad, man. Just ate some food and not shit going on. It's Wednesday.
Yeah, yes it is. There's no football, which sucks. How did your teams turn out for the year? How's the playoffs going? You preparing? How many you got in?
What's up, Albert? I've made the playoffs in all my leagues but one, and it came down to the last game. So I ended up being the 7th seed.
Is this for Dynasty as well?
No, that's a redraft.
Okay.
So, yeah, I'm in 6 leagues, made 5 of the 6 of them, 2 of them redraft, and then 4 of them are Dynasty, right? Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
It's too many.
I was talking to Norton about this, I think, last week, where I think I'm in a total, because I have a couple with Mario where we're co-managers.
Yeah.
And I was in a couple charity leagues this year. And I think, so redraft, my personal redraft, I had 4 and I made playoffs in all 4. 2 of them I had buys. And then dynasties, I was just my regular dynasties, not the co-managed or I guess the co-managed. We'll throw the co-managers in there. I was 3 of 4 in that.
Okay.
And the one I missed out on in our one league was, I said it in the chat, I missed out by 1 median win.
Which league was that? The Dinkin League?
No, that was the Steel City.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, Dinkin and
Dad Bod, you made it.
Dad Bod, I'm first in both of those. I got buys in those. But the Steel City, I missed out by 1 median, and it was by 0.2 points. So it was a killer.
Yeah, that's the worst.
That was a weird league where at the beginning of the year I started super slow. I had a lot of injuries and things weren't really coming together. And I was mid-season, I was debating if I was going to sell or if I was going to go for the playoffs. Then I tried to sell Dak Prescott, and nobody was willing to pay what I thought was fair value for him, because I thought this was going to happen. Not like what he's done, but I thought he was going to be at least a top 10 QB the rest of the way, just with his schedule. And I thought he was going to come back to what he normally does. And he did. And he went above that. And he's the reason him and CD Lamb are the reasons that I got to almost to the playoffs. They carried me through it.
Took him a little bit of time, but
it did.
I mean, he's having an MVP year, so
he is.
I was
right front runner.
Yeah, I wasn't super high on him. I had him as a low end QB1, maybe even a QB2, but he's been lights out, dude. Just mad confidence, making crazy throws. He's looked like the best quarterback this year.
I'll be honest, it looks like them moving on from the offense coordinator was the best thing for them, right?
Oh, you're talking about Chargers.
I don't know why I'm blanking. Chargers offense coordinator. Completely blanking for some reason.
Why can I think of his name?
We're both blanking. Put on the spot, you blank. But yeah, so it seems like that was the best move for them, because McCarthy has this offense humming. He looks like he's really Dak Prescott's really come. We're idiots.
Yeah.
Kellen Moore. So moving on from Kellen Moore, it looks like this offense. It took them obviously that a first month and a half ish to get going, and once they started figuring out how Dak likes it, and once they started targeting CeeDee Lamb at the clip that I thought they were going to target him at the beginning of the year, which was like 30% is where he's kind of falling into. This offense looks unbelievable. So if they keep that going, if they continue it into next year, I'm really comfortable with that team moving into next year.
Yeah.
Got to get a couple pieces, but that's weird. The weird part in Dynasty is if you think your team's good, which I did, and you start slow, right? Like, do you sell and try to tank the year and get a good pick, or do you hold your confidence and believe in what you drafted, which I did. Missed out by one game, but sucks. So because now my draft pick's not going to be what I could have had, but I'm still comfortable with the team. So
I don't even know what first round draft picks are anymore. So,
and who knows what's going to happen this year with this NIL stuff? Because there's a lot of players saying they're going to stay in, and there's rumors of Marvin Harrison maybe not even coming out, which I don't believe. But
he's I mean, I don't think there's a chance in hell he's going to get 30 million or 25 million. If he does, I get him. If he gets 25 million, you've got to stay another year.
That's where we're at with these college athletes, where there's even talks of that.
Mm-hmm.
That it it might keep some of these guys there an extra year or two, where you're at the beginning of the year when you're doing Dynasty and you're looking at players coming out, right? You sit back. Now I'm like, okay, I have to figure out really if it makes sense, because some of these big names might not come out because they're going to get massive money in college, right? Like, it kind of changes the game for Dynasty a little bit, this college NIL.
It also, I feel like, devalues second and third round picks more.
100%. 100% it does.
Like,
and it devalues late first round picks more.
Mm-hmm.
Like, if you don't have a top 5 pick,
it's just a point on. Yeah, you don't know what's going to happen. At that point, it's
top 3. It's like really top 3, right? Like, I mean, Jahmyr Gibbs was.
I would say top 5. I would say top 5 is realistic.
Yeah, but that was for me. It's always been top 7, right? Like, that's where you.
Yeah, not anymore.
That's the thing. So what's it going to boil down to? This is going to be a weird year where we're going to see if some of these really big names stay.
I'm glad I traded my first round picks for this year.
That's usually how I do it.
Honestly, it's it's like. I know we talked about it in Discord, and we always, post up. Everybody's posting up like dynasty rankings, like each team and what their dynasty ranked. And the more I've just realized, like, this is just based off of 100% hypothetical potentials, off of draft picks and your rookies. And like in theory, these teams could, but it's at this point, it's like there's, like you can get a Quentin Johnson who sucks. And
again, if you don't have those top 3-ish picks,
it's not really
which you think are locks. Like, you have to think they're locks, but like, look at Bryce Young this year. Look, because he looks like he's going to be a complete bust. And CJ Stroud was the quarterback going after him in most dynasties, which a lot of us were saying. I think the majority of our Dad Bod squad was saying Anthony Richardson, CJ Stroud are the two to get.
I mean,
in dynasty,
and we got Will Levis looking like something like.
That's the thing, man. You really don't. And I traded a pick last year to go get Tajay Spears, and he looks like he could turn into something. Like, and I got him.
Henry's replacement.
I got him in the mid-third round. So it's like, again, you need to be able to do some due diligence and look at players and see what you think it's going to be. But at the end of the day, if you don't have like a home run hit like Bijan Robinson,
Gibbs.
I mean, look at JSN. Compared to.
That's
what
Tank
Dell's doing, stuff like that. So
it really comes down to, especially for Dynasty, it's like the early draft pick and what team is it going to? Like, who's drafting?
That's a massive.
It's such a big deal. So, and the benefit of trading all your most of your picks away too. You have teams that are going to tank.
Because again, go ahead.
No, I was saying teams are going to take we have Brian who has I think 9 first-round draft picks this year, or 9 draft picks this year in our Dad Bod league. And it could pan out and it looked phenomenal, and he has a bunch. But now he has to drop players to draft.
Yeah. So for me, if I'm doing that, like if I was stockpiling first-rounders like that, it's to make another move to go get players.
You have to. And even then, it's like those first-rounders, unless they're guaranteed top 5, they're
Yeah. Yeah, like Mario was trying to trade me for – Mario offered me a decent package, which I considered it was for – the only reason I didn't do it is because he wanted CD Lamb in it, and I wasn't willing to part with him.
Well, yeah.
He offered – it was Dak and CD for 4 first-rounders, and one was a top 3 pick. But I just wasn't willing to do it, right? Because you have to bank on – like if I'm giving CD Lamb up, I would have been hoping to get Marv Harrison with one of those picks to replace him. And then at that point, it's, you're still getting 3 first-round picks, but at the same point, it's like those could be nothing at the end of the day. And is Marv going to go to a place where he can be as valuable as CD Lamb's going to be? So it's all a big question mark moving into the offseason. So it's tough to trade away some of those blue chips. That's why I was okay with trading Dak when I was offering it, because I understand what he's done. He's MVP candidate and stuff like that. I didn't anticipate what he did this season coming out of him.
Anybody did,
especially when I was trying to trade him. But he's still older. He's had injury concerns. He goes up and down, like we've seen it. He's a very hot and cold sort of quarterback. So I was willing to move on from him to get some pieces for the future, but didn't pan out. And again, I think the big question mark for me going into the offseason for Dynasty, and then we'll move on to, what we got for this show, is what this NIL deal is going to do and how it's going to.
I love it. It's like there's 2 NFLs. I love it. It's great.
Yeah. So what does the NIL stuff do for Dynasty? And are some of these big names going to stay if they get paid? So
yeah, I love
we'll see, man. I'm excited to see what the offseason brings because it's always fun, but this year is going to be especially different. And we might see some weird things happening.
Yeah. It keeps you in. The drama's alive. Football might end, but there's still going to be some NIL drama.
Yeah, and it could just devalue those first-round picks like crazy in Dynasty. So we'll see what happens, but let's get into the show. So today's usually the Dynasty episode, which we got a good Dynasty talking already, but today we are going to do our hot not starts of the week, even though our thing says Talkin Dynasty up top. I switch it on a lot of the stuff, but we're going to do our hot not starts of the week and who we think are going to have good plays. I don't know how you played it, but I usually go for some players on the fringe of starting, sitting. So that's kind of how I play it. And then if we have time, we'll get to a couple questions that Mario and Norton didn't get to yesterday. We have some holiday stuff coming up. So tomorrow we're off. And then I think it looks like we're going to be off Sunday as well. We'll see if we can get 2 people on Sunday. We will, as always. But as of now, it's looking like we are going to miss Sunday and tomorrow. So that's why we're kind of skipping the Dynasty talk. I'm going to get you guys ready for the first playoff round. But let's get to the NFL news of the day. The big one dropping. Keenan Allen is officially out for Thursday Night Football.
Yeah.
Massive. It sucks coming right before the playoffs. I had a question lined up before this news broke, and I still want to get your thoughts. What's your outlook for Keenan? Say you have a bye or whatever, and you got Keenan. What's your outlook for him without Herbert?
Not great. I mean, do you think
he could still be a top 12, or are you pushing him down to wide receiver 2?
I think he's low end wide receiver 1, high end wide receiver 2. Quentin Johnson isn't great. They don't. I guess Palmer's back, but there's going to be a guy you're going to throw to. I mean, it's kind of like what we saw with like Puka. Like if there's injuries, Puka or Kupp one of them is going to get heavy targets. It doesn't matter who the quarterback is. It's with Browning, Chase is still going to get targets. he's still going to get heavily targeted, but we just don't know how bad it's going to be. If it's going to be a lot of off target throws, you're playing him regardless whenever he does play. But I wouldn't expect top 5 weeks, for the rest of the season.
Yeah, which sucks.
Yeah,
because he's probably a big reason you're in the playoffs, and
there's he was a steal.
Yeah, he was. We'll get to some more of these names, but there's a lot of people that are some big names that are hurt. So Dulcich is designated for return. Any interest?
Sorry, what was that?
Dulcich is designated for return from IR. You got any interest in him for playoff push? No.
It's risky.
Chase, you brought him up. He says he's 100% going to play this week. So that's great news for the playoffs. Again, he's not, top 3 play, but he's still valuable. You're still going to play him. It's good to have him there. So Chase will be active. And then some big names did not participate today. CJ Stroud, obviously, was a big one. Pacheco's still out. Alexander Madison, Chris Olave, DJ Moore, and Brian Robinson were all do not participate in practice today. Any of those super concerning for you?
A lot of them. So this Stroud obviously is, and he's out with it. 2 receivers one's for sure out, and Nico's looking like he's going to be out. With sucks. Pacheco out, you've got like some fool's gold with Clyde Edwards-Helaire back there. I probably would put him. I probably should have put him on my list, but if he's a starter, I'm not. I still wouldn't really touch him unless it's like a desperation play.
Pacheco.
I'm talking about Clyde Edwards-Helaire. Pacheco doesn't play. I don't know if I feel comfortable playing him.
Mario's been talking about this a lot. Who do you prefer, him or McKinnon?
McKinnon.
Right? Like if you're playing
it's not great.
McKinnon.
Yeah, it's not great either way. Olave, yeah, that's I think he
missed
will
today
play
with an ankle. Yeah, he missed it with an ankle. He's been dealing with a lot of stuff lately. It seems like the leg stuff sucks because he's a burner. That's how he makes all the plays. He's still great.
So bad.
He's another one that like if he's playing, you're playing him.
100%.
You kind of have to, unless you have.
He's a wide receiver too. I mean, you're playing him.
It's funny. I have him in one of my leagues, and I'm debating between him. So it's, I think I have Amon, Olave, and DJ Moore.
I mean, that's a good core.
Yeah, and then I have two great running backs, and then Achane. So I'm debating between Olave and Achane for that flex spot. So that's where I'm at.
Tough.
It's a tough call either way because Achane seems like he consistently gets decent points, and he's obviously one that can put up 40 points.
Right.
Olave's been super consistent as of late, but
he hasn't had huge games.
Exactly.
And with Carr, he's not going to have huge games. It's worrisome. DJ Moore is obviously worrisome.
Another ankle.
Brian Robinson I think it's the hammy, right?
Yeah.
And it's playoff time. So it's like Brian Robinson, top 10, was top 5 until last week. Olave, high wide receiver 2. I mean, you have really good players.
Yeah, that's a thing.
That are out this week. And there was players that went out last week. I mean, it's like just right here, you have 6 top, borderline top 10 players.
Yeah. And there's so many injuries this season, especially the quarterback position's decimated. The running backs are really getting banged up. This year, maybe I'm wrong, but I feel like this year big name players have been getting hurt at a higher clip than like what we're accustomed to. It makes me think
more quarterbacks are going to be taken earlier this year. Like, I think there's going to be some teams who are reaching for some third rounders who probably should go in the 6th round because they're thinking of just depth at quarterback position. Yeah. Like, we want a solid backup that's cheap.
It's weird, too. And then some of these guys come just like Tommy DeVito and
Brownings look good.
What Dobbs did at the beginning. Now Nick Mullins is coming in. But, like, some of these backups came in and look good, right? So it is big to have a good backup. Even though like Tommy DeVito and Browning, right, when they came in, we're like, who the hell are these guys?
Yeah, no expectations.
No expectations, but they come in
But
and play lights out. So it's
look at Gardner
interesting,
Minshew.
right?
Yeah, you've got to have. If you're going to win games, you have to have somebody good, and it's cheaper to go rookie in the mid rounds than it is to sign a free agent QB as a backup.
Yeah, you're starting to see it, especially with big name QBs, right? Like the Browns, they kind of punted backup QB this year, obviously.
You got Flacco now, so
now we do. But yeah, we came in with DTR. Then you have Cincinnati and Herbert had, he's got who's the backup that's even coming in?
So the backup for Justin Herbert, I forget his last name, but he was actually
North Dakota or something.
He was the starter before Trey Lance and won a national. This was my argument all the time when I was arguing the chat was, hey, before Trey Lance, they won national titles, and the guy who was starting quarterback also put up crazy numbers.
Yep.
And now he's going to get a start. He might. This the crazy thing is he might have better stats than Trey Lance, and I think he went like 6th, 7th round.
Yeah,
and
we'll see, man. It's always fun to see some of these young kids come in and see what they got.
For sure, it's exciting.
Man, this year is weird. This year, the Herbert one's a big one too because it was one of those players that probably carried you into the playoffs. One of them, right? He was having a really solid year for the most part, and then hurt right before the playoffs. So you got to kind of pivot and. A lot like I had Herbert in 3 leagues and I didn't have a backup, so now I'm like scrambling, to try to figure it out.
Joe
stuff like that.
Flacco.
Yeah, I picked up Stafford in a ton of leagues. So
if you can get Stafford,
I'm rolling with him this week. Great matchup. We'll get to it, but speaking of that, Alex, who are your QB hot plays of the week? Or are we doing one?
I think we're just doing one.
All right, give me your QB hot play of the week.
Russ Wilson. He's been Mr. Consistent all year. You guys have not probably realized that, but he's been
solid.
He's been a QB too. He's been a good one. I think this game is a little bit more high scoring than we think. Detroit's offense can put up points when they decide to. Denver's defense isn't amazing. It's okay.
Been better.
Yeah, it's been better.
But yeah.
But I just honestly feel with how bad the Lions defense has been playing lately.
Especially in the secondary.
Right, and I think it is going to be a higher scoring game to where this is going to be the first time Russ cracks the top 10 since week 4.
Okay.
I think it's very possible.
I like it. I like that call. But you're right. He's been consistent. He's been good, especially as of late. Denver is on a tear right now. Like if they make the playoffs, which I'm kind of thinking they're gonna. Like,
I hope they do, dude.
I
don't like the Broncos. Yeah, I don't like the Broncos. My uncle's a huge Broncos fan, but I'm also like, with me, I dove deep with Russ. I drafted him.
Yeah, I know.
I didn't get rid of him. I didn't die on that, and I was like, Sean Payton's going to figure this out. Sean Payton's going to figure this out. And they figured it out.
They did. Yeah.
Nice.
And if they make playoffs, like it's one team you do not want to see.
No.
Like with how hot they've been playing, especially the defense. What they did with the defense is crazy to me. It just flipped like out of nowhere. But
that's the thing in the playoffs is good coaches win in the playoffs.
Yeah. I like the call. I like it. My hot QB play of the week is Matthew Stafford. I just talked about him. I picked him up because I think he's going to have a massive week. They're going up against Washington, who their defense is dead last against QB position so far this season. And Stafford has been on a tear as of late, especially the last 2 weeks, putting up over 20 points against 2 great defenses, Cleveland and Baltimore. Obviously, top 5 defenses. Cleveland's defense was a little banged up, so I thought it was a blip on the radar. But then what he did against Baltimore, Cooper Kupp's emergence, Puka Nacua is still doing his thing. And Kyron Williams back there is just this offense is starting to click on all cylinders. I think Stafford's in for a big week. I'm calling maybe top 5 if I can because I need it. So give me Matthew Stafford this week against Washington's very terrible defense.
Yeah, I like it. I think Stafford puts up a ridiculous amount of yards this game.
I'm with you. Who is your QB not of the week? Who do you think is going to have a rough week?
CJ Stroud. And to be honest,
If he
he's
plays.
been if he plays, and it is
Mm-hmm.
it is a maybe. For how low I was on him in the off season, I'm pleasantly wrong. He's been so fun to watch, and my
Yeah.
love with Nico, so it was nice to finally see that happen. He doesn't have Nico, doesn't have Tank, and he's hurt. I
Maybe no
don't.
Schultz.
Yeah, maybe no Schultz. There's no weapons. I mean, you're throwing to
Yeah.
Robert Woods and Mechie, who that's a bust. I mean,
Yeah. Seems like it.
I
Noah
mean,
Brown. Yeah.
he's wide receiver 5. Mechie is, so I don't love it. I know he's been a top 10 QB all year, but if he plays, I wouldn't play him.
Who they got this week? Not that it matters too much because your points make a ton of Tennessee, which their secondary sucks, but I get what you're saying. Like it's almost impossible to play them with how many weapons are gone. Like, what can you expect if your top 3 passing options on play, right? And then your running game hasn't done much all season. And Tennessee's defense, that's what they're good at. They're good at stopping the run. So they're going to have to sling it. And if they do, like, I don't trust the receivers to be where they need to be. So I like that call. My QB, not the QB I think is going to have a rough week this week, is Trevor Lawrence. Going against Baltimore's defense, I know they had a rough game against Matthew Stafford, but again, I think this Rams offense is really clicking on all cylinders. T-Law with no Christian Kirk, I think it really limits his offense. We kind of saw it last week against the Browns, who really stifled Trevor Lawrence and the entire Jags offense besides Evan Ingram. It was a tough day for them. And I think it's mostly because Kirk's not there. It really limits what they can do. Going against, again, a top 5 defense, I think it's going to be a very tough day. T-Law didn't look like he was dealing with anything from the ankle, so I don't think it was really injury based. I think it was more of like they're limited now on weapons. Calvin really isn't doing what we all thought he was going to do at the beginning of the season. Evan Ingram might have a good game. I kind of anticipate him having a pretty decent day. But other than that, I don't think T-Law is going to be able to do too much against this Baltimore defense.
Yeah, no, I agree. Yeah, it'd be very, very tough to start T-Law with Kirk out and with the matchup. I'm not loving it. So he hasn't. And to be honest, T-Law hasn't been phenomenal all year anyway. So
yeah, it sucked because he was really starting to get into that zone where like I thought he was going to be. He put up some really solid top 5 weeks. I think he packed 3 together in a row, and then Christian Kirk got hurt. And everything kind of, and then he got hurt, and it kind of.
he didn't start.
He
didn't start.
He started
off
terrible.
Out. Yeah,
no,
so
terrible.
it's been you started seeing it come around, and you're kind of like it really is about Christian Kirk is just a lot more important than people realize.
I think that's a big factor because once they like started utilizing Christian Kirk, because if you remember the first month of the year or first month of the season, they really did not incorporate Kirk as much as we all thought they were going, or as much as I wanted them to. And Calvin really coming in, Zay Jones was a thing, and then he got hurt. Kirk went in, and then this offense started clicking a little bit. Yeah. And then Zay came back, and then this offense as a whole started looking way better. And then
with all 3 of those guys healthy, it's a
different.
Ingram.
Yeah, it's a completely different offense when all 3 of them are on the field.
It's a top 5 offense. You have Etienne, Ingram, Zay Jones, Ridley, and Kirk. It's just
And I think with all of them, Trevor Lawrence could be a top 10 QB. It's just
Bryce Young could probably be a top 10 QB with those guys.
Maybe. I don't know. Let's keep it moving. Who is your hot RB play of the week?
So I had Gibbs in there, but I think it's kind of an obvious, even though he hasn't, been better than RB15 in a little bit. You're playing him if you have him, even if it's a flex spot. I think one that's worth discussing is Singletary, and my thoughts on what Singletary is. They're not going to run the ball really well, but you started seeing it again last game that they're like, okay, we gave Dameon Pierce a shot. We want to get you more touches. What I think ends up happening is they end up dumping the ball off especially if Stroud doesn't play. They're going to look for dump offs all day, and they're going to be behind. And I think a benefactor of that is going to be Singletary. So he might not have a touchdown, but could he get you 8 to 13 points just on receptions out of the backfield and 30 yards rushing? Yeah, it's very possible.
Yeah, I like it. I like that call a lot. Man, I wish they would just pick a back and go with it because it makes life hard on fantasy football. But I like the thought process. It makes a lot of sense that they're going to have to play from behind a lot and dump the ball off. So makes sense. My RB hot play of the week is Jerome Ford going up against Chicago's defense, who, again, they've been a lot better as of late. Especially against the run. They're a little bit stingier than what they were, but they're still kind of middle of the pack, so I'm not too worried about that. Browns' offensive line hasn't been performing as well with all the injuries. They're kind of decimated at the offensive line, but I think my main play for this is Joe Flacco being a quarterback. What we've seen over the last 2 seasons with Joe Flacco is he loves to dump the ball off to running backs when the play kind of isn't there. If he doesn't like it, he quickly dumps it off to the running back. We saw with the Jets, and then this week Ford had 6 targets, 5 receptions. I think we're still going to have some of that, and I think that Jerome Ford is going to have a lot more space to work than he did last week. Like, the Jags defensive front is very good against the run, so he didn't have that good of a week running wise, but I think he'll have a better week running wise this week, and combine that with the dump off passes that I think we'll see. I'm not expecting a RB1 performance, but I think high RB2 upside, probably like 15 points, something like that is what I'm anticipating. Hopefully he'll find the end zone. So I think Ford is a pretty solid play this week.
Yeah, and he just looks better than Kareem Hunt too when he runs.
He does. It's another one dealing with injuries too. Kareem Hunt, I think he missed today. He's been dealing with a groin all season long, but he always plays, so I'm not anticipating him to miss.
Yeah,
he's more of that like real short yardage, and if you need to get gritty, that's where he comes in. I think he's averaging like 2.8 yards a carry.
Oh, so it's terrible.
It's terrible, but he's always
Damian Pierce, dude, the fat boys.
Yeah, he's always going forward though, so that's why he's a valuable piece of the offense, and he's a great run blocker. So he's a big piece of the offense, which kind of hinders Jerome Ford to some capacity, but again, Jerome Ford's going to get the bulk of the carries, and he'll get the bulk of the receptions in this offense for the running back position. And with Flacco, I think that'll be a lot of receptions. So I think Ford's a pretty solid play. Who is it RB you're not as high on this week?
DeAndre Swift. Just
been saying it for the past month.
Yeah, I mean, he's had some tough games recently. This Eagles offense is lost. It is weird. So weird. Jalen Hurts is like fantasy. Yeah, he's a top 3 quarterback, but it's like you're watching him play, and it's this Eagles team doesn't look great. Swift hasn't looked great lately. To be honest, the play calling's been kind of off. I don't love him this week. I do expect at some point we'll have a bounce back game, but I don't think it's this week.
I don't know, man. I mean, I'm pulling up his stats right now. Sleeper's been so slow for my on my phone for some reason, but he hasn't had. He was my do not play last week. Going against Dallas, he's going against Seattle this week, but he's had one game over 15 points since week 9.
Yeah,
like he's had his last. I mean, he had a pretty good day against Kansas City week 11. But other than that, he hasn't done really too much since week 7.
Yeah, like, for me, he's probably at best a flex play this week.
Yeah, and if you look at his numbers going back through, to week 7, that's where it kind of fell off the tracks a little bit. He's majority right now. He's really dependent on a touchdown, and those touchdowns are Jalen Hurts. Like, if you're inside the 5-yard line, Jalen Hurts getting that touchdown. So it really limits what's with his upside. It's tough because
that O-line has not looked great. Jason Kelce,
it hasn't, and he's just not getting
great.
Yeah, and he's not getting any pass work. He's getting like 3 targets a game at most, and then again, like he's not breaking those runs that we saw at the beginning of the season. where he was finding the end zone once or twice a game, right? Like he was breaking 20-yard runs here and there and finding the end zone, but he's not doing that anymore. So it really limits him because he's not getting the pass work and he's not getting touchdowns. So like, where's he at? He's going to finish with maybe 10 points. Like he's since week 7, I think he's had 2 games over 10 points, maybe 2 or 3 games over 10 points. Like it's not good. And we still are holding on to it.
I think it gets better after this game.
It could.
For that to happen, though, the Eagles have got to realize that they've got to get rid of the ball quicker. I know they like shooting it downfield to Smith and A.J. Brown, but to open that up, and what they did early on in the season is get it to your tight end or get it to your running back, get it early to open it up. So I think they do kind of lean back on that on short intermediate passes and dump offs in the backfield, but I just
it's
don't.
Weird.
I'm not going to do it until I see it really. So if they do it this week, then it's like, all right, I would feel comfortable going forward. But that O-line's not looking great. The play calling hasn't been great either.
It's crazy because they keep winning too. Like, yeah, they lost this week, but they still have 10 wins or something like that. But
it is nuts.
There were parts in the season where they were running the ball with him like 30 times a game, kind of just ground and pounding it. Then they go to like a heavy pass offense. They were winning those games. They were. And it's just like, I can't tell what the offense wants to be. Maybe that's their issue because there's no rhyme or reason. But either way, I'm with you. Swift, for me, I don't think I could play him at all. I mean, it's like, what's your options? Because Swift is produced. But like, I would probably play Jerome Ford over him this week, which is crazy to say.
That's the thing. He's a flex at best for me this week.
Yeah. It's a crazy thing to say, but I think Jerome Ford has more upside than Swift this week.
I agree.
A not so high RB for me this week is a guy coming off a massive game. Your boy Ezekiel Elliott. I know he's coming off a really big game. I think that was against Pittsburgh. Pretty good defense. I think that was mostly due to Bailey Zappi being able to throw the ball on that defense, which he was really slinging it at will, which was crazy to see with how many weapons were down. I don't know why.
Weapons.
Whatever you want to call them. But most of I think they had 3 active receivers playing that game.
Terrible.
I don't think that's going to continue this week against Kansas City's defense. Their secondary has been unbelievable this season so far. They have one of, if not the best cornerback in the game. He's going to shut down whoever he's on. If Bailey Zappi can't throw the ball, I don't think Ezekiel Elliott's going to have too much room to run the ball. And it's, again, even if Zappi can throw, Kansas City's front seven's good enough to keep Ezekiel Elliott in check. And I'm not really anticipating too much from the Patriots offense this week. So I know what Ezekiel Elliott did last week was great, and you might want to plug him in because of what he did. But if it's me and I can avoid it, I don't think I'm going to play Ezekiel Elliott.
There's part of me, so Zeke hasn't been efficient pretty much the whole year.
Mm-hmm.
But where he's been doing damage is catching the ball. And I think he does get shut down running the ball. There's a part of me that I would probably still play him in the flex just because he is going to get targets out of the backfield.
Yeah, there's a slim. To me, last week I saw a path to being 10 to 15 points, which obviously he went above it.
Right.
I saw the path. This week, I think 10 is like wishful thinking.
I think his floor is 5.
I agree. I think it'll be between 5 and 10 points.
I think I'm
that's where I'm falling.
Right.
And it's are you willing to flex somebody for that? Or would you rather take a swing on somebody else?
Yeah, I think that's, to me,
you know what I'm saying?
5 to 10, 5 to 12 points. I don't see anything more than that. So it's for me, he's a flex, depending on how big your league is and what you have available.
Yeah. Obviously, it depends on
if you can get 8 points out of a flex, that might be enough for you. But I don't think he's not gonna have a 15-point week.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I know a lot of people saw what he did. That's the thing. I think for me, I'm kind of saying this is a cautionary tale, as a lot of players saw what Ezekiel Elliott did last week, and they're like, oh, okay, Zeke's back. Let's plug him in. He's going to get me 15 to 20 points. I don't see that happening.
Yeah, and it's Patriots. They've had games like that.
That's the thing, right? It was a weird game. Again, I've said this so many times this year where Thursday night football games are just so weird. Like anything can happen at any point. Anything
Patriots
can win.
also beat the Bills. You know,
There's
it's like
no.
it doesn't make sense.
It does. Thursday night football games don't make sense. So I really don't take too much of those, like what happens in those games, into account for my following week.
Short week.
It's hard for me to really factor that into it because I think it is such a weird game. And these teams just don't prepare the same way. So that's why, I don't put a lot of stock into it. And I think for me, if I can, I'm trying something different than Ezekiel Elliott. But I get it if you have to because RB position's pretty thin. Who is a wide receiver that you're a little high on this week?
Waddle. I think he's due. They're going against a good pass coverage. The defense is good. I think
Jets.
Yeah, I think Salah does really well adapting to what offenses are doing. They really need, most defenses, it's like, it's obvious as day, but it's like you've got to figure a way to double team and keep the safety super high on top. The man-to-man shit isn't working. I think Salah does very well against Hill. And because of that, I think Waddle gets more attention. And surprisingly, I think this Jets team in general is a little bit better than most people think. I think Zach Wilson actually might have an okay game. I wouldn't play him, but I think he does well enough to where Miami will have to throw the ball.
Okay. So does it change if Tyreek's a no-go?
No, probably not, just because there's just target wise. Like, you're starting Tyreek regardless, right? Like, it's obvious.
If he plays, yeah. I'm assuming he's going to play.
Right.
Because
you're playing him regardless.
The game. Yeah.
But I like Waddle this week. If he's the number 2, I just think he's just going to get more single coverage. If he's the number 1, he's going to get targets. I just think it's a good week for him, across the board.
Yeah. I like it. I mean, last time they played in a cold game, again, that was the Friday game, Black Friday game. He put up 20 points. He went 8 targets, 8 receptions, 115 yards. Looked good. And that was on 66% of snaps. So if that gets up to 80, which he was last week, I'm with you. I think Waddle has a pretty good day. I like that a lot.
I feel like he does well against good defenses when it's just because there's more focus on Hill.
Yeah.
Even though it doesn't matter, Hill still does awesome.
Sauce will probably be on Tyreek most of the day. If I had to guess,
that's a great matchup. Yeah,
it's going to be fun to watch.
For sure.
But again, even if you have the best cornerback, Tyreek Hill's
the best
far
receiver.
and away the best receiver in the game right now. So you're going to shadow. You're going to put a safety at the top, leaving Waddle with some open lanes. I like it a lot. A wide receiver for me, hot play, Jaden Reed. I think if you have the option, if you're kind of debating between someone in your flex spot, I think Jaden Reed's a really good play this week. Going up against Tampa Bay's defense.
Yeah, terrible.
Trash secondary. Jaden Reed's had 15 points in 4 of 5 games. The one game he didn't was against the defense I've been talking about most of this segment is Kansas City's defense, who's been lights out against receivers, lights out against most offenses in general. They've been holding people under 25 points really a game. They look really good. And like you said, Tampa Bay's secondary has been terrible all season long. Jaden Reed should have another really nice day. I'm excited to play him if I can.
He does everything. He does a little bit of everything. So
he's a really weird one for me right now, where I know he's a really good play, but am I willing to sit somebody that a bigger name player, right?
No, Jordan Love's still the quarterback, and Christian Watson can still be a factor.
Right. Like, if you're dealing with injuries, this Keenan Allen news, if Olave doesn't play, if DJ Moore doesn't play, if Jaden Reed is out there on your waivers, go pick him up. I don't know if he is anymore.
No way.
Shouldn't be.
But no way.
If you have Jaden Reed, and you're kind of questioning your flex spot, I think Jaden Reed's the play this week. I think he's going to have a really nice day.
I agree. I like him. He's good.
Yeah. Who is a wide receiver that you're kind of low on this week?
Lockett hasn't been a good season.
No.
He had last week was his best week in almost 2 months. I think the Eagles play a little bit better defensively, but JSN also getting more attention. It just hurts. He's a borderline deep flex play for me. He's got a lot of weeks where he's just not been. He's been borderline startable most weeks.
Yeah,
he
really fell off.
It's the farewell tour for Tyler Lockett this year.
Yeah, I mean, in Seattle for sure. He might go somewhere and kind of get a resurgence.
For sure, yeah. He's not retiring. It's just
Adam Thielen.
Yeah, I forget what
like that.
The cap hit is going to be, but it's drastically less, I think, next year for Seattle. And he has a big contract, and he signed a big one when he signed it.
Yeah, I think he's out of there after this year. He might go somewhere and be a valuable piece moving forward.
Patriots will take you. Come New England. We take all receiver. The old – we'll take anybody.
He probably will go to the Patriots. Mm-hmm. Makes a ton of sense. A guy I'm a little low on this week is somebody I don't want to say, but Garrett Wilson going up against Miami this week. Again, they played a few weeks back. We just talked about it on that Friday afternoon game. And he had a decent day, but it was mostly saved by a touchdown. I think he had 44 total yards. He's going to be going one-on-one with Jalen Ramsey for the majority of the day, which I hate that matchup for him.
Yeah.
You think Zach Wilson's going to keep them somewhat in the game? I don't have as much faith. I know Zach Wilson had a decent day last week, and anything can really happen, but I think we've really seen what this Jets offense has been for the majority of the season, and I don't like what I see. Garrett Wilson has put up a decent season for what he's been dealing with.
Yeah.
The matchup against this Miami defense, I don't love for him. So I think it's going to be a tough go. Obviously, it's hard to sit him.
You're playing.
Maybe. Yeah. You're probably playing him, but it's I'm not expecting a great game, which again, this is one where I'm like if we're talking about Jaden Reed and Garrett Wilson,
I'm taking Jaden Reed.
You want to play Garrett Wilson, right? But
I'm playing
in the back of my head, I'm like, Jaden Reed's probably going to put up a better day.
Yeah.
So that's where I'm talking
quarterback.
The bigger name players like this. It's like Jaden Reed is, for me, I think he's the better play of the week.
The Jets just don't have any other receivers to really threaten their secondary.
And it's tough to sit a talent like Garrett Wilson, right? Like
you have Ramsey, and they're going to put the safety on Garrett Wilson. That's going to be tough.
Yeah, tough play, tough matchup, tough all around for the Jets. Breece Hall, I think, is a tough play this week.
Poor Mario.
What could have been? What could have been with Aaron Rodgers?
Yeah.
Who's the tight end you're in on this week?
Staying with the Jets, I actually like Conklin. Last 2 weeks he's been getting targets. They are going to be down in this game. I do think Garrett Wilson has a rough week, and that ball is going to be going to Breece Hall and Conklin.
Yeah,
they're going to have to get rid of the ball quick, and it's just going to be dump offs.
Yeah, he's been getting utilized a lot. I like the call. He's been consistent as of late. So for a safe play, you're not going to get goose egged. I don't think, but he's been pretty consistent as of late.
Yeah.
A hot play for me is Isaiah Likely going up against the Jags defense. Likely's been heavily involved since Mark Andrews went down. I think he had 7 targets this week. He's getting 20 to 25% of the target share in the Baltimore offense, which is great for a tight end. That's what you want to see. And then he's going against this Jags defense who just got torched by Joe Flacco and David Njoku. Njoku went off for a massive game, had over 30 points, 2 touchdowns, close to 100 yards if he didn't go over it.
And this offense is better than the Browns offense.
100% right now. I mean, the Browns offense is a 4th-string quarterback, and they're down to their 5th and 6th tackles, and they're just decimated with injuries. And the Jags
this is a different Ravens team now. I mean,
it is.
Odell coming back, and you have Odell, Zay, Likely, Mitchell. Yeah. This is This is more open offense. It's not.
We've
fun.
been talking. Hey, a lot of us. I know you have. I have. Norton and Mario talked about it last night. Odell, man, he could be a very interesting.
He's looked really good.
He could be a really interesting play moving into the playoffs.
Yeah,
like he can make some playoff noise.
He gets open, and one thing that most people haven't questioned, besides maybe a year in Cleveland, is Odell's always had hands, and that's the thing. Like if you're thrown his way, he'll snag it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it seemed the crazy part of him in Cleveland was it seemed like he lost his step. Just burst wise, he didn't look crisp. There was no, and then he just couldn't get on the same page with Baker. There was something weird there. Like, I don't know if they hated each other. It just, something wasn't clicking right.
Yeah. I think there was a lot of issues,
behind the scenes.
With the team, even with like Landry and Odell. And I think, I'll be honest, to me, it comes back to having an O-line that was supposed to be good that got injured. Baker not playing great, but also play calling and not utilizing Odell for what he could do.
Yeah. To be a fly on the wall in that building.
Oh, yeah.
I think there was a lot of behind the scenes stuff that
for sure
we don't know about. And I think that was a big reason why they just could never get on the same page. Seemed like there was to me, because I watch all those games, like I'm a Browns fan, obviously, but to me, it seemed like Baker was actively not throwing to Odell.
It was weird.
Which was the weird part of it.
It was really weird.
I don't know, but yeah, no need to talk about the 2018-2019 Cleveland Browns anymore. We're beyond that point. Who is a tight end that you're not so high on this week?
Taysom Hill. I know it's like every week you think it's going to fall off and it doesn't happen. He's going against a good D, and at some point.
Is he playing? He missed last.
Well, that's what I'm saying. So he's injured. He's dealing with an injury, so we don't know if he's playing. But if he is playing, I'm probably avoiding this week.
Yeah, I don't know how you could play him. I'm with you. I think that's a solid call.
It's going to fall off. Those wheels are going to fall off. With players like him, it's a trend, and trends do die off.
Yeah.
If he plays, I don't love it. I wouldn't do it.
I don't hate it. I really don't. Just with the injury. I think the injury is the big thing. If he was fully healthy and he played last week and looked good, I'd think differently. But again,
for sure,
it's so hard to play him this week. A not so high tight end on my list this week is Dalton Kincaid going against Dallas. I know we all wanted. Yeah, I know we all wanted Kincaid to be, the next coming of Travis Kelce, of Antonio. Name your tight end that you love. We all wanted Kincaid to be him. Obviously he still could be, but for the rest of the season, I'm kind of taking a step back. He's going up against the Dallas Cowboys defense, who's been great against the tight end position, especially all season long. The defense as a whole has been good, but especially against that tight end position, they've been pretty solid. And Kincaid's been in a slump at the past 2 weeks mostly, but last week, especially when Dawson Knox was back on the field for the first time, he was not great. I think he ended up like tight end 24, something like that. Yeah. So I don't trust it with Dawson Knox being back. And again, I know Buffalo won that game, but the offense still looks off, right? The offense just doesn't look like the Buffalo offense that we're accustomed to. Josh Allen seems off a little bit. I don't know what it is. He's dealing with an injury with his shoulder or something like that.
And it seems like there's something going on with him and Diggs that we just don't know about.
100%. Well, we've been talking about that since the offseason, right? Like, there's been rumblings about that since the offseason. But
there's a part of me that feels like most of his turnovers are because of Diggs and how they're designing plays to try to keep Diggs happy.
What's up, brother? Thanks for tuning in.
I think Allen wants to get the ball to Kincaid more. I just think they're not going to draw it up for him to do that.
Yeah, I agree, but they're not putting up 35 points like they were last season, right? They're just not doing it. Mm-hmm. And if
it's weird. They look like they figure it out. It's like James Cook will start balling out, and then it's like then it just completely stops for 2 quarters.
Yeah,
it's so weird.
That's the other part of this thing is Diggs has been consistent for the most part, right? Except lately he hasn't been great of the season as a whole. But then other than that, week in and week out, it's somebody else that's getting the ball, and you just don't know who it is and who to trust. Like Gabe Davis had spurts where he was performing like crazy. At the beginning of the year, he looked great, and then he'll throw a game in here or there where he puts up 30 points. James Cook will have games where he's top 10 RBs on a week, stuff like that. And then Kincaid will have a week where he's top 5 tight end. Like you just can't trust any of these other players besides Diggs, and even then, Diggs hasn't been performing lately what we expect him to.
You're still going to play Cook. You're still going to play Diggs. It's just
100%. You're playing those guys, but other than that, is it like who can you trust anybody
Kincaid's
else? Kincaid, you want to plug in, but like,
I mean, you want to play Gabe Davis too because you know it's a home run if he does
it hits, but you can't because then it could be a goose egg, right? Like even with Kincaid, he'll get you 2 points if he doesn't perform to what he could put up 2 points. Like, would you trust? Would you rather play Kincaid or I don't know, Cade Otton? Like, who are you playing?
I might
been playing well.
That one's probably the closest comparison. I don't know. But yeah, what is this? Should I
play any Raiders Eckler this week? Eckler versus the Raiders? Is that what you mean?
Dun.
I don't know. Would you play Eckler this week?
No.
I don't think so. I think that's a tough one. I'm playing the Raiders. I picked up the Raiders in a couple leagues to play him as my defense this week. Yeah. Once I saw the Keenan Allen news. Keenan Allen's out.
Allen out. It's like, what are we going to do? Oh, they have Austin Eckler. They're literally going to just lock him down.
That's the thing. Like, I know I kind of understand the concept of wanting to play Eckler this week. Even like we've been talking about it the past month or so. Eckler's been such a bust play. Like you can't. It's hard.
You might be able to play him as a flex just because of
that's
targets.
The thing. He might get a bunch of dump offs.
Yeah.
In PPR leagues.
I don't see him having a big game, but I think it's a safe play.
Would you rather play him or Ezekiel Elliott? We were just talking about Zeke.
Eckler.
I think I play Eckler over Zeke because Zeke's on my low play this week. I think there's a better chance of Eckler kind of performing to like a 15-pointer. Like I could see that with some dump offs, and Eckler's could do something with it.
Yeah.
Got CBR.
Zebra?
Who's that? Got Brees on my bench. Oh, so it's Brees or Eckler?
Brees.
I hate both of them this week. I really do.
I'm playing Brees.
I'm playing Brees too, I think. Because we saw it, right? Brees had a good amount of checkdowns last week.
Yep. I think
that continues.
I think it's Conklin, Brees this week.
Yeah, I think that continues. Brees looked good in the pass game, not so much in the run game.
He hasn't
offensive
looked great.
Line, man.
Yeah, and it's just a bad team.
Yeah, the team as a whole sucks. Again, they're just stacking the box, which is why Zach Wilson kind of had a decent day because he had open lanes, stuff like that. Brees sneaks out. He can do damage if he gets in the open space. We all know that, right? So give me Brees for the upside because I don't think Eckler has that anymore. I don't think Eckler's got that, what we've seen where he can take one and break it for 50. Like he doesn't have that anymore. Brees can. So yeah, I'm going Brees. And again, Miami should get up early a lot. What's that mean? A lot of dump off passes to Brees. So, I'm going Brees that week. What's up, Mark? How you doing? How you doing tonight? Thanks for tuning in. Alex, any other plays that you're super in on this week? Also, anyone listening, any last questions before we get out of here for the week and get you guys ready for these playoffs?
I'm trying to think if there's anyone that's like just not like an obvious.
I wouldn't.
There really isn't.
He says he could pick Zeke up off the waivers. I'm still playing Brees out of those three. It would go if I'm ranking those three, it would go Brees, Eckler, Zeke. That's how I'd rank those. I think you're in the same boat, Alex.
I mean, if you could put Zeke on your bench,
I would put if you can pick him up and drop somebody.
I would for sure do that.
I agree.
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know what the team looks like.
Yeah, we don't know the team. We don't know bench size. But if you can pick Zeke up and just stash him, I would do that. Like if you know you're not going to use somebody, because Zeke could be valuable down. Let me pull up the schedule. New England, we got Kansas City, Denver, Buffalo. He could be an interesting play next week against Denver. They're definitely susceptible to the run.
I would say
I'd have to, we'd have to see what happens throughout the week if anybody gets hurt and like how to rank it. But I think he could be he's definitely a good piece to have on your bench. Like I'd pick him up if you could and drop somebody you're not using. I wouldn't drop Eckler or Brees or anything like that. But if you have a player you're not using, pick Zeke up.
Yeah, I agree.
And again, we've been talking about this all week. If go on our Twitter, go on Norton's Twitter at Norton0723, I believe it is. He put up a full breakdown of defensive streamers for the playoffs. So go look at that, pick up. I have 2 to 3 defenses on every team, mostly 2. And I'm kind of streaming them based off of matchup stuff like that. So if you want to get a really comprehensive breakdown of defensive streamers for your playoff picture, he had it up 2 weeks ago, but you're kind of down into the nitty gritty. But this is the time to have 2 defenses on your bench. Get ready. Make sure you're ahead of the game before you get up to that week. You want to be a week ahead with those defenses so that somebody else doesn't come in and kind of snipe you on one of those. Yeah. So go check that out again on our Twitter at DadBodFS or Norton's at Norton0723. Give him a follow if you don't, but definitely get ahead of the game on those plays because everybody's going to try to pick up a streamer week of. So if you can be a week ahead, you're in a good spot. All right. Again, we will not be here tomorrow. So if you have any questions, just hit us up on Twitter. Feel free to DM us. We'll be in there. Me and Mario, Alex is in there a little bit. So feel free to reach out to us and we will try to be here Sunday, an hour before kickoff. We'll definitely send a tweet out before then to let everyone know if we will. If not, again, just hit us up on Twitter. We're going to be answering as many questions as we can. For that, I'm Rob. That's Alex. Peace.
Thank you for watching our episode. If you enjoyed this episode, please make sure you like and subscribe to our YouTube channel.
If you aren't already following us on Twitter, check us out at DadBodFS.
We'll be posting all of our best clips and videos to all of our social media: TikTok, Instagram, Twitch, Facebook, YouTube. You can find us on there at Dad Bod Fantasy Squad.
Lastly, if you'd rather just listen, we make sure we post our audio of each episode on all the major streaming platforms. Stick with us all season long so together we can count our trophies and not our calories.